I'm going to hit the record button, and I will record this and I'll put it on my website in case you'd like to watch it a little later. So today's session is on how to impress clients and close more deals with RPR. And really, I was talking just 2 days ago, I was doing a couple of live RPR classes for some brokerages in St. Louis. And I was explaining to them, I said, one of the reasons I like RPR is because I'm closing more transactions and it's helping me tell a message that really my customers and clients, I think, understand. So today we're going to talk about the importance of right pricing a property, pricing it right. We know that listing is existing, right? If you want to exist in the real estate business, you have to get listings. It's kind of challenging in today's market because the market's, it's really a seller's market. And so listings, at least in my area, are far and few between. And when you do get them, they're flying off the shelf pretty quickly. But we still want to price the property correctly for our client, the seller, and we have a fiduciary obligation to do that. So we're going to look at the importance of pricing property correctly. We'll also take a look at how to understand AVMs and RVMs, So we're going to take a look at how to understand AVMs and RVMs. We'll also look at how to use RPR's valuation analytics tool. We'll create an RPR report and we'll do a lot more. So the first thing we need to discuss is really what is this whole thing about an automated valuation model or a realtor's valuation model. Why do we have these? What's the big deal? And do I need to know this as a real estate professional? And the answer is yes. In fact, we're already, all of you on the webinar, I'm sure, are already familiar with AVMs. We know what a Zestimate, or we've heard of a Zestimate. We know that Trulia gives us valuations for property values. And this has just been a big thing in the last few years. It's called big data, and it's taking data and information and then taking that information and using it or providing it to consumers about what a property might be worth. And so the problem with AVMs and RVMs, and I'll kind of come back to this, is that there really can be what we call fuzzy pricing, or it can be a little bit confusing because, Trulia, here's an example of how Trulia, Chase, AOL, and Zillow all have different estimates for a property, yet they're using the same data. Now, how does that happen? So when we talk about this whole fuzzy pricing scenario and situation, it's because each one of these companies will use their own, what we call their own algorithm. Or in other words, it's a computer trying to make a prediction of what the property might be worth. And so Zillow may use one computer algorithm while someone else uses a different algorithm. Some people use the listing prices, while other companies put more weight and emphasis on other parts of the scenario. So through all of this, and I don't want to get into a big, long discussion on algorithms, I just want you to understand that when we look at the valuations that are showing up online out there and why there's a different value when they're all using the same data, it's because everyone has a different computer algorithm that comes up with these prices. Now, the really neat thing about realtors' property valuation is that we're going to actually do something a little bit different. And I'll show you this as we get into the seller's report and how we can review the property. We can review local market conditions, and we can use our information and our knowledge to help kind of get rid of some of this fuzzy pricing, but more importantly, how we can help consumers understand the difference between an automated valuation model in the marketplace and the realtor valuation in the marketplace. So I'm just going to kind of actually go in now, and we're going to go actually into RPR. And I'm going to just show you and kind of explain how some of this works. Now, one of the things that you'll notice here at the RPR section, and let me just pull up my little pen so that I can do some drawing and you can kind of see this, is you know that you can search for properties. We've already covered this on all properties and properties that are for sale and several other situations and examples through here. So I went in and actually did some searching for a zip code, and I got some properties here, and I pulled up a property that I want us to take a look at. And I want you to see right off the bat that we have what's called an RVM, an RVM. Now, you will remember I kind of went through some of the PowerPoints a little quickly because I don't want this to just be a PowerPoint show. I want to show you, and I want to show you real scenarios and kind of walk you through and explain how this all works. Sometimes in RPR, you will see what's called an AVM listed. And that's an automated valuation model. So that's what the AVM stands for, automated valuation model. If I go back over here to the search results, and I'm going to clear that off, I'm going to show you right here, you can kind of see that this property has an AVM. Now, this property down here has an RVM. Here's another property that has an RVM. So some of you are probably saying, okay, I'm really confused, John. What do you mean? Why do some properties have an AVM and some properties have an RVM? Well, let's take a look at this first of all. The AVM is an automated valuation model. It is looking at public information and it's looking at certain types of data. This is what Zillow and Trulia will use in order to arrive at a price. The realtor's valuation model, the RVM, and we came up with this when we developed RPR, and it's called the realtor's valuation model. It's really the same thing as an automated valuation model, except it's a little better because we use the MLS plus we use the same information they're using up here. So in the RVM, our realtor's valuation model is a much more robust, it's a much more accurate pricing matrix or model, computer algorithm, because it's using more data. It's using the MLS, plus it's using all of the typical data that an AVM might have. Now, not to confuse you, just I want to try to give this to you in the simplest format that I can. Zillow and Trulia are what we call AVMs. They're automated valuation models. They do not have access to all of the data that you and I have through our MLS. So if you see a listing like this specific listing right here, and it does not give you an RVM, it's because as RPR, we do not want to put we don't want to put a lot of weight on these values because we don't have enough information. And you can see that right here. It's just a 1-star rating. So it's really one of the great things that I like and appreciate about RPR is that we're not going to try to give you any kind of valuation if there's not much data for us to analyze or if we don't feel comfortable giving an RVM. Now, we will tell you what the automated valuation model is, but if there's no value there or you simply see an AVM, it's just meaning you and I as real estate professionals are going to have to do a little bit more work on pricing this property. Now, when we do see an RVM, like this specific property here, really the computer model is saying we feel pretty confident that this price might be a good price based on the other data that we have. Okay? In fact, we're even giving it a 5-star rating that says based on all the computer models out there, we feel pretty certain this house is within a 10% margin that this is what this house is probably worth. Now, here's the thing you have to remember. And we really need to explain this to consumers. I had a situation, it's been a couple of years ago, and I needed to sell a house in order to make this domino effect kind of take place. In other words, if I could sell this house on Corker Road, I had like 3 or 4 transactions that were going to close. You know, one of those we all like to have, right? So I get this phone call, and the people want to look at my listing on Corker Road. I'm very excited because, first of all, they have already driven by the outside. They like the location. And I'm thinking, hey, if I can sell this house, it's going to help me close 3 or 4 other transactions. So I set up the appointment, meet the folks. I remember it was a Thursday morning, I think about this same time, 10 o'clock in the morning. I remember it was on a Thursday, and met them at the house. And the very first words out of his mouth were, why is this house listed for X number of dollars on Zillow? In fact, he actually said it like this: how come this house is only worth X number of dollars on Zillow? And I remember he had his hands on his hips and he looked really mean and gruff. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this isn't going to go over real well. And I said, that's a great question. And I'm glad you asked that. And I want to explain why why that property is showing up like it is on Zillow. Pardon me. My office is just all of a sudden, I'm going to turn my fan on a little higher here. My office all of a sudden just gotten a little stuffy and hot in here. I shut the door. So I said, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. And I want to explain the reason for that. Zillow only has access to a certain amount of data. And I told him it's what we call an automated valuation. It is a computer. I'll draw a little square there for a computer. It is this computer that's basically predicting the price. And as I explained to him, the computer has never set foot in this house. It doesn't know what this house looks like. The computer doesn't know other details about the house that I know through my physical inspection. And the computer really doesn't know my market area and how we can adjust comps and so forth, like I know for my area. So, when I was able to explain that to them, they understood more about why Zillow's price was not so accurate. And in fact, they went on and purchased that home, and I did get the domino effect to go through. Now, I tell you that story just to say that that's a good example of fuzzy pricing. And it's a good example of how consumers really don't understand and cannot, when they're seeing all these different prices out there in the marketplace, why is that? And so we need to have a little bit basis of an understanding to explain and share why there's different values when everybody's using the same data. And in some cases, like with Zillow here, they weren't even using the same data. So I want to just kind of walk you through this specific property here and, show you how you can explain to sellers to impress them on how this is different and kind of the way I work this. If I was listing this house, the first thing I would do is I would pull this property up for my customers, soon to be clients, and when I would pull this property up, in fact, let's just go to a bigger map and I can show you the properties in the area. And let's just take this property right here and let's hit more details. So this property is not listed, and you can see that I'm going to go out and I'm going to try to get a listing on this property here. So of course I have the Google map view so I can look at the neighborhood before I go out to look at the property. I've got other information about the property, such as the history of the property. So I can actually go over here, and if this property had been listed back in 2013, it would show up somewhere in here. If they had taken a loan out on the property recently, it would show up in here. If there was distressed information or if they had sold the property, notice this history tab is going to give me lots of information about this property. Now, in this example, as I go out and look at this property, I see that there's really not a lot going on, so nothing's really happened. But they want me to come out and do a evaluation, possibly a CMA, to list their house. So a couple of things I see here is they are giving me an RVM for the property, right? $269,330. I've got a 5-star review. The first thing I want to tell these folks is I pull this up and I go over it with them right at the property. I want to tell them that, number one, this is just a computer valuation. This computer doesn't know what their house looks like. It hasn't taken into consideration any updates, hasn't really looked at the comparables like I'm going to look at as we go through. So I want them to know right up front, this is a ballpark, but it's not going to be my number. My number could come in close to that, but let's kind of go through and take a look and see how we can adjust the property accordingly. So my first step when I meet with sellers and I pull my iPad up, I'm showing them this specific front page, and I'm explaining to them it's a computer and we've got some work to do before we can really make a determination on what the value should be. Now, I do have access. Notice when I went to the history tab of this property, over here on the history tab, it only went back to, let's take a look at that real quick. It only went back to 2013, I believe. It just goes back, a couple of years, 4 years. But notice, I've got it right over here. I'm going to just draw this. I have this Compare Historical Records tab right here. Now, I also have that same tab on the summary. So I've got it in both places, which I'm glad they actually did that. So the first thing I might want to do while I'm there, see here it is right here, is I may want to look at the historical records of this. So I'm going to select Compare Historical Records. And on the left side, it's going to give me, let's see right here, I'm going to go to the current record. So here's the current record right here. And over here, I can look at the property anytime it was listed in the MLS. So here's some information here that I can walk down through and I can look. I can see who the listing agent was at that time. I can also go on down and look at any other information that's there about the property. I see a price change and they canceled the listing here, but it was on the market 87 days. But look at this, I can drop down here to 2008. It was listed for $245. It was on the market for 135 days. I can see where it expired, and I can go on down and look at some of the other information. Nancy had it listed and at that specific time as well. So you've got this ability when you're with your clients to look at any historical records. The other thing that we might want to do is go in here and look at the bigger map, and we want to be able to show the consumer. This is our subject property right here. But look at this. I can actually go in. If I want to change this to a Google view, I can do this as well. But here's my property I'm doing the CMA on, and now I have information about all of the properties in the neighborhood that have recently sold. Looks like there's been some pre-foreclosures because those are in red there. There's a house that's pending. Here's a competitor that's for sale. And a lot of times I'll have people that when I go out and actually when I'm performing a listing like this, I remember not too long ago, some folks, I was sitting at their kitchen table and we were doing this exact scenario. And they said to me, well, you know, our neighbors down the street recently sold their home and they told me the price it sold for. And I said, oh, they did. And so I'm right here on my iPad and I select bigger map. And let's just say this is the house I was at. And I said, was this the property here down the street? Because they told me approximately, and I saw the green house there. And I clicked on it and I said, was this the property right here? And I pulled it up, which is 1623. And they said, yeah, that's the house. And I was able to show them what the house sold for. And it was much less than what they were thinking. They a lot of times people think, well, the house was listed for X number of dollars, so it sold for that, and they don't really understand that. So this is one thing that I always have a conversation with. We look at the neighborhood, we look at their property, and we try to see what's going on in the neighborhood. And of course, I can always zoom out a little bit, and this will repopulate and show me more properties that have sold or listed. Or I can zoom in. I can also, if I want to, draw a map around a specific area. So if I'm just wanting to look at comps in, if I want to do a box and I just want to do comps in this location right here, I can search that area if I want to. If I want to draw a polygon, which is, in this case, I want to come all the way over here and I just want to come down here and over and up. I had this over in San Antonio when we were covering RPR because there was a gated, this was a gated community, but this area was not gated. And the folks were telling me properties inside here sell totally different than properties outside here. And that kind of brings us to that next part about really helping you get over this fuzzy pricing, because the computer may not know that this is a gated community here. The computer just says, hey, here's our subject property, and we found a house over here that sold for that. I'm going to go back up here and make this a road view so you can see my little drawing. There we go. Well, I was trying to, here we go. And so, that's a good example of how automated valuation models can really mess up the pricing matrix in this, in that this is going to be its own unique area. Properties outside this may not necessarily be a good reflection. Zillow and Trulia and other computer models don't have that. They're just computers, and they don't really understand or know that there are certain comps we can't use just because of the way the market works. And that's where you and I bring our experience and our knowledge of the marketplace. So I'm going to reset the map here and we'll go back to the road. I don't know why that's not, might be, so I'm going to go backwards one. My apologies here. Computers, right? So we have the ability to compare the historical data here, and we also have the ability to understand that we can go into this bigger map. We can start to look at what's going on in the neighborhood. Now, the second thing we want to do, and I think this is very important when we're impressing, when we want to impress our clients. And by the way, there's lots of other items down here. I would encourage you to add notes when you're out, taking your listing and getting your information. I want to show you one other really cool thing that you can do from your mobile phone. And if you haven't downloaded the mobile app, let me just pull this up real quick here and I'll show you how to use it. Oh, let's see here. So I'm going to let you see my phone, which will come up here. And right now I'm going to go into RPR, my RPR app, and I want to show you a couple of really cool things that you can do that I think help impress clients and customers when you're on a listing presentation. And the first one is this ability, I was telling you here about adding notes. So if you add notes and information or upload photos, it all syncs with your property here. So I'm going to go down here to my recent, right down here. And you can see that this property at 1644, this is the top one, everything's in sync. So it knows on my recent searches which were the recent searches. Now notice down at the bottom, right here where my, I'm going to, right down here where it says notes, right there. If I select notes, I have the ability now to add a note. So I'm going to select add a note, and I can either press my finger right in the middle. And so now if I want to use Siri, I sometimes dictate my notes using my audio Siri on my iPhone, period. The other day, my wife left a voice message for some folks, and she was leaving a voice message over the telephone, and she was telling them the message, and at the end she said period, and she goes, I don't know why I said that. You get so used to saying that on your phone, and anyway. So now I'll save that. You can also type that in, and you're going to notice over here just in a second that note's going to pop up over here. I might have to refresh my screen. We'll leave it alone. Now let's add a photo. So if you're out on the listing and you need to, take a picture. I'll take a picture of the screen here, and I'll use that photo. So sometimes when I'm on a listing appointment, the seller will have a copy of the deed, or they'll have utility information or different things that a copy of a survey. We don't want to add another one. So now I've added that photo. And this is the other thing that I think really helps me out, and I think it impresses clients and customers when I'm on a listing, is to add a memo. So I'm going to add a memo. And what I do is I hit the start recording, and I take information about the property, and I use my electronic tape measure. So I'll put it on one wall and say 22, go to the next wall by 16, and I'll describe the house with crown molding and carpeting, hardwood floors. I'll hit the pause button, go to the next bedroom, hit the record again or pause button again, and I'll say master bedroom, use my digital tape measure, get the measurements, talk about what's in the room, and I hit pause again. And if the seller's with me, sometimes they're adding comments or information, so I can record that. When I'm done, I simply hit done and save. And now, if we come over here to and I hit refresh, you're going to see those notes are going to appear right underneath the property notes. I think we were on the same listing. Let's hope that pulls up here. Here we go. And so as I scroll down, there's my picture of the deed and information they gave me. Here's some notes I made on my phone, and here's my audio listing. So when I'm putting this in the MLS, I have all the facts and information. Or as the seller is giving me information, I now have that information that I can use to put that in the MLS. So, it's really, I think, a great way. I'm going to turn off my iPhone sharing, and I'll close this little app. It's a great way for you to include the information, use those when you're on the listing appointment. So I'm getting information from that respect. The other thing that I like to show and indicate is this little graph right here. It's called median estimated home value. And I think it's a great illustration for me when I'm working with sellers. And what I really want to do is I want to get rid of the county and I want to get rid of the state, because what I'm trying to focus on is more of a local, pinpointed environment that I'm looking on. So to do that, I'm just going to simply uncheck the Cook County and uncheck Illinois. And now I'm getting more of a view here for what my subject property, where it is, versus the median estimated home value in this neighborhood. Just in all respects, looking at this house as someone who doesn't know that marketplace, this property looks like it might be a pretty good deal. But again, that's where your experience and your knowledge comes in, because you know the properties in that area. You may know more information than the computer has access to. So I come down, I have all of my mortgage records, I have all of my legal description, I have the deed records, everything's right here. I have all kinds of information about the school. And again, I have this base marked that I can look at based on the zip code, the county, and the state. So all of that information's right here that I can look at and analyze. Now I'm going to jump over to the refined value, which is this tab right over here. And this is where I really believe you're going to be able to impress clients and customers versus your competition. I sold my real estate company in 2006 to go to work for a bank. I had my real estate license since 1978 at the age of 18. Some of you are quickly doing the math. Real estate's all I've ever known. After 28 years in the business, I was just burned out. And long story short, I'm going to kind of go through this real quick, and you can hopefully get the idea. My wife and I built a brand new home on our pick your own blueberry blackberry farm in 2007. That same year, I'd just gone to work for the bank. They were on what is called the watch list, and I didn't know that. The bank auditors came in for a second audit right after I went to work. Things did not go very well. A long story short, the bank was in a lot of hot water with the federal examiners, and I lost my job. I had signed a non-compete clause. Remember, that's the only thing I'd ever done since I was 18. Of course, the real estate market's tanking anyway in 2007, and we had a late spring freeze and lost our entire blackberry crop. As Steve Martin would say, "Hey kids, we're having fun now." So anyway, yeah, it was a rough year. Okay, so anyway, I lost a bunch of stuff, and that's all I lost was stuff. But I'm wanting you to know that we moved away so that I could sell real estate, and I started teaching and training and doing what I could to survive and pay back everybody that I owed, and I promised everybody I would pay them back, which I did. But it was a tough time during that non-compete clause, especially when you're in a market and nobody knows you. So we owned this one house that we had rented that was the worst kid on the block. I mean, it was a great neighborhood. In fact, we live in this home today. It's a great neighborhood with really nice homes. I had invested in it years ago because I knew that it was a great buy and it was a good neighborhood. And unfortunately, during that time, we'd rented it to some people and they didn't take good care of it, and they moved out of the house. So my wife and I said, what are we doing in this apartment in St. Louis? Let's move back to Farmington. And, these renters have moved out of our house. It's a good neighborhood, and we'll just start fixing it up, which is what we did. We came in and cleaned it, and we started fixing it up. Now, we couldn't get a bank to loan us the money to refurbish the house because I'd just gone through all this horrible junk. And, for some reason, when you have a little bad luck, especially in a small community, it's like you have this word tattooed on your forehead that says, beware. And so we had to pay for everything to redo on our house. Now, I'm showing someone through our home, and I'm telling them, look at this, what we've done. We put new windows in and we put this and that and the other. And all of a sudden it was like a voice went off in my head. John, shame on you. And I knew exactly what my mind was thinking. How many times have I gone to list a house and the sellers were telling me about all the things they had done to their home, and I just kind of blew them off? I mean, I didn't write down, I didn't get the enthusiasm that they were telling me with. And if there's really anything that I could tell you that would help you impress clients and customers more, it's really to take an interest and listen when they're telling you about their home improvements they've done to their house. And I want to tell you firsthand, as an agent who's using this tool I'm going to show you right now, that it works. People really, their eyes light up. They appreciate the fact that I'm taking the time to ask them the questions. And it's this tool that's on the Refine Value tab, and it's right here. And basically, what this tool allows me to do is find out, what have you done to the home? If you've added a bathroom, when did you remodel your bathroom? What year? And how much money did you spend? In this example, you will see that they spent $10,000 in March of 2015, and the computer gives them $4,800 in credit. Now, I just want to tell you that, so basically what RPR is doing is taking that improvement and depreciating out what normal depreciation would be based on all these variables that they use that are kept up to date monthly or quarterly. And it's allowing you to give the seller credit for that information. And talk about impressive and helpful. If you are going out and you're going through and asking questions to the seller and listening and giving them credit for that information, and your competitor does not do that, who do you think will impress them in the long run? I know it will be you. So it's a really cool tool, and it's one that you should think about and use. And I want to tell you, I've had great success with it. So Joseph wanted to know, tell me when the rebroadcast will be. You're having some interruptions. Sorry about that, Joseph. If you'll go to businesstechguy.com, and I'll jump over here so you can see that. Business Tech Guy. Whoops, that's my Shopify account. I sell online real estate courses in Missouri. But it's just businesstechguy.com, Joseph, and you will want to go to the resources tab on the left, and I have a little RPR tag. So if you'll go to businesstechguy.com, you can go right down here to resources and RPR, and I will post this right up here at the top of the screen. So right there, Joseph, if you'll, and I'll try to get your email address as well, but I'll post it right up here. Okay, so back to this graph. I really believe this is a huge deal today. And I want to tell you, when I go over this with people and they tell me what they've done and I add that in, I mean, I can just tell their eyes light up. And I go back and I shared that whole story with you just so you would know. I think sometimes as real estate professionals, we hear this stuff over and over again. And I was telling the group a couple of days ago, I mean, I've been there. I want to tell you, I remember my wife and I being at Lowe's, and we needed a new toilet so bad for the one bathroom because it was just disgusting and awful. We'd cleaned it, don't get me wrong about that, but it was just an old, and I think it was an old pink colored. We had the whole bathroom was in this pink color, and we didn't have $150 to buy I mean, I was doing the best I could to keep my bills paid. And, it was like it was a big deal when I was able to put new vinyl or the pergo that looks like hardwood. It's not pergo, but it's not hardwood, but it's just a step down. But it was a lot of money, and it was a big deal for us to save that money up and do that. So I think this is a really good tool, and we should use that. You can also, if the property needs something like a new roof, and the roof is going to cost $10,000, you can add that cost for that improvement and it will deduct that. So now you're really able to go in and fine tune and spend some time listening to impress your clients. And then, of course, through here, you would make adjustments for the market conditions, for the exterior and interior of the home, the lot size, and everything's being adjusted and calculated for you so that now you just go on and do the comparable analysis. Now, so that's going to be though I'm just kind of walking you through on things that I do that have really been very impressive for my clients, and they're able to watch me as I go through this whole scenario. And by the way, I'm using my iPad. And so now I'm going to jump over to comp analysis, and I'm just going to pick my comps, and I'm going to confirm the facts. 9 times out of 10, this will just be confirm the facts, and I'm going to find the comps. Now right here, we're just going to leave this alone, and I'm going to select search because this is really looking for properties the same way an appraiser would use. And now I'm just going to pull some comps up, and I'm going to update the valuation and close. We could go down and find others, but I just want to kind of show you this. Now I'm going to adjust the comps, and this is where we use our experience and our knowledge so we can make these properties worse or better or leave them the same. And here's a property that I want to say, you know what, this is right across the street. I want that to be in the first position. I've shown that home, and it's not as nice as my home. This property I'm going to put in the second position because it's just down the street, and this house is a little better. So now I'm able to go through, make some adjustments. I'm going to move that one up, and then I'm going to add notes here about the properties if I've been in there or have information. So I can add notes, and I'll include those in my report. And now I'm going to update the valuation and close. My next steps to create the report. Now here's what I want to show you what I do and how I use this to impress some clients. And there's 85 pages with this report, okay? Some of you may say, you're kidding me, you print out an 85-page report, and the answer is no. I'm going to run the report, and I'm going to close this box, okay? Now, I am going to come back over here because I want to show you something that I use. And so we're going to go to my iPad. All right. And I'm going to pull up my NAR RPR account right here. So that's going to pull up right here. And I'm going to get my Apple Pencil out. So it shows that there's already a user detected. It might, no, it hasn't pulled me out. So remember, everything's in sync. So here's this 1644 property that we're looking at right here. Now, I'm going to just create the report. Well, let's see, I've already created the report. So let's go to reports. And this report's being generated. Now, when it's done, it will download, it will ring and tell me. And I want to just show you something very quickly here. I want to make sure my Apple, well, that's pulling up. I want to make sure my Apple Pencil's connected, and it is. Let's see. Let's just jump over here to the home screen. And let's just pull up a report that I did right here. Okay. Now, I'm going to come right up here to this little guy right here, my iPad. So I'm going to take that, and now I love to use this program called Notability. So I'm going to open this up in Notability. Notice it says it's been generated, and I'm going to say okay. All right. So now I'm going to close out of my iPad, and I'm going to go into Notability, which is right up here. It's always in the top 10 apps. So I'm going to create a new note. I could add it. There's all of the pages, and I want to bring all of those in. So I'm going to import the report and bring this open. This is not part of the regular script for RPR, but I am showing you something that I think you'll like here. So hopefully anyway. So here's my report. Oh, that's one I did the other day. I just wanted to show you how. Here it is right up here. Okay, now you'll notice at the top that I can change the color of my pencil. So if I want to change the color of the pencil, I'll leave red. I can also change, how big the circle I want. If I want to highlight in a different color, I can do that. And of course, I have the ability to add text. So what I'm actually doing when I go through this report is I like to make some notes. So you might want to just right off the bat say, here's what I came up with, or, and by the way, you can always just, if you want to get rid of something, you can just hit the undo button at the top. Perhaps you want to say, here is, here's your current list price. Here's actually the price I came up with. Or, here's my refined value, or with the comp analysis. What I want you to understand is now I'm using my Apple iPad to create notes. And as I go down through, and I'm not, I'm just picking pages that I want to go through. Here I might explain, I might want to circle something there. I can scroll on down as we're going through. And, as I want to pull various things out, I can see lots of things that have been happening on this chart here. If I want to, this I could talk about. Buyers agents have access to this information. This might be a good example or an illustration on how, why you need to price it effectively right off the bat. I've got charts and graphs. You pick out what you want to go through. But then you can also come down here to the comps that we were using. Remember so there's one of the first properties here, and right down here, and again, this is all customizable, so you can point out what you want. But if this is one of the comps you're using and you want to highlight certain things on that comp, you can do that. If you want to bring it up real big, so that you can, your neighbor sold their house for $85,900. I'm using my fingers to pinch in and do that. But I wanted you to just understand, I present my CMAs this exact way. And then when I am finished, I can then email this. I can message it to them. I can do various ways right from Notability. And the really cool thing is, all of my notes and information is attached. There's the computers done. And look, if I want to, now I'm recording right up there, I can actually record. So when I email them this report, they actually get all of my audio and they know exactly what I was talking about. So I just wanted to kind of show you that very quickly on how I'm using RPR and my Apple iPad to go in to generate. So I'm going to download this report here to use this in a listing environment to help me impress clients and win more business. Now, I want to show you one other thing, because there's part of this is impressing buyers as well. And we're just about done here. One of the really cool things is if you're, all of my recent property searches, everything's kind of coordinated and whether I'm on my iPhone or my iPad or wherever. So let's just take this 60643 and I'm going to select for sale. This time I have some buyers. They're looking for something in 60643, and I can go into the advanced tab. So if I have a buyer who says, I'm just looking for foreclosures, I can uncheck non-distressed and I can just search for bank-owned homes or Fannie Mae homes. So let's just say we've got a buyer though, and they're looking at a price range between 250 and 275. And they have to have 3 bedrooms and they'd like to have 2+ baths. Now, they also say to you, we really want a fireplace. Well, right here in the keyword search, I can add up to 6 keywords and it will look through the entire database. So let's just do a search. Now, this could be, we want to look in that zip code, yes. We may not get anything. This could be like Geraldo Rivera when he opened the vault and he was searching for, when we all watched the 2-hour episode and yep, there's nothing there. That's okay. I'm going to come down here and I'm just going to remove the fireplace. Now let's see what we get, if anything pops up. And notice I have 9 properties. So I can make any changes I want on the side here, and I can look at these, apply that, and get updated filters. So if I said, maybe my buyers say, well, we could probably go up to 300. I just change it on the fly on the left, and now I'm able to pull up 13 properties. The other thing that's really cool that you can do is now I have this buyer and they say to me, John, we're buying this home and we work, I'm going to zoom in, we work over at, gosh, there's a bunch of cemeteries in there. I just noticed that one. I hate to say the guy, but let's just say they work at the cemetery. And they keep the grass cut and different things over here. And they have to live, or they want to be able to walk to work. So you put a map here and they want to be able to walk, and they want to find a home that's within a 10-minute walking distance of the cemetery. I can select apply, and now I can actually go in, I can actually go in and search this area for any properties that might be for sale. Or they could say, we work here at the hospital and we put a pin where the hospital is and we have to be within 10 miles. Actually, let's say it's a fire station. Now I can go out within 10 miles, or I've got a guy right now, he has to live within 5 miles of the fire station, or you can do drive time as well. And again, I'm doing walking, but you can do that by car. You can do it by the day. So if they work on call on Saturdays and they have to be, from 12, let's say 12 noon, they have to be within a 15-minute drive of the hospital. You can find that location. And it's very, very accurate, and it's pretty good information. So I have this ability now to search for buyers through a number of various features, and there's unfortunately no properties. I think that's when I searched a minute ago, because we would search this area. I'm sure we'll get some properties that will show up. The other was the 10-minute walk within the cemetery. So now I have 123 properties that I can look for. And if they come down and they want more information about the neighborhood, I can go into more about this neighborhood and actually begin to give them specific information about this zip code, this neighborhood, the housing, the people, the economy, the quality of life, and so much more. And I have the ability to go up to reports, and I can share any of these reports, market activity, neighborhood. I can even share a school report and so much more. Now, I want to show you one other thing, and I see we have a question. So if they wanted to know information about the Bernard Elementary School, I can select that school and it will pull that up. I do want to make note of one more item here that I did not show earlier on the reports, and I think it's just a really an awesome feature, and they've just added this into RPR. It's the ability to add custom pages. And I really think that you should, and it's one of the things that it's on my to-do list. We all need a testimonial page. We need, a one page, a resume that will kind of display, but I can add pages, or if my broker has a specific page about our company, something you want to highlight, you can add that. And I think you should always have the call to action, some type of a call to action page. So, we kind of covered today a wide variety of things, and I threw some things in that hopefully you enjoyed, some tech things, because I like technology and I love to use RPR with technology. And I want to tell you what, when I'm using my iPad, um, people really appreciate that. And a lot of times I do my work on my iPad or my computer back home. I don't want you to think you have to run out and buy a computer, because what you can do, actually, you do all your work at the office, and now you can just bring your phone up. And I want to show you just how easy this is from the phone. Down here at the bottom where it says reports, where my mouse is, I can select reports, and I can actually hit share. I can view it on my phone, but if I want to share this report, I can just hit share, and look at this. I have the ability to send that through message. If they're an international customer, which I do a lot of international work, and they all use WhatsApp, I can use WhatsApp, and I can send that to my friends through WhatsApp. So I mean, there's really some cool things that you can do with RPR, and you can now share and deliver and present this information right from your mobile phone. So use RPR. It's a great tool. Remember that there are some what we call fuzzy pricing. Everybody's using the same data, but sometimes the prices are different. Well, we've got RPR, which is a realtor valuation model, which uses the MLS. It uses the same data the other folks use, but it allows you and I, as I just showed you, to go in and really use our experience and our knowledge to fine tune the price and be as accurate as we can. So I want to kind of take a look here. Can you explain why RER does not have all the closed houses that I see in the MLS? Let's see, Dan, that's a good question. Okay, so I understand what you're talking about. In Chicago, there still are some areas, and I know where we have overlapping MLSs, there is some data that may not be coming through. If you could send me, Dan, your information, and you can get that on my businesstechguy.com. If you could send me and that was over here on the Business Tech Guy. Let me just pull that up here. My email address and everything is right up here in the left-hand corner, and phone number. If you could send me that, Dan, I'd like to pass that information along and find out more for you, because it's a great question. Are you able to override the original RPR price in your final report? Excellent question, and the answer is yes. When you are out on the RPR site and you're doing your report, so when you create your report over here and you go into the seller's report, any of these reports here, you can come down here to the bottom and you can you can include or suppress any of those values so that it only shows up what you're wanting it to show up. So the answer is yes, you can do that. Yes, you can do the same thing, Maxine, on your laptop. Now, whether you have the ability to write on your laptop, I don't know if you'll be able to do that. I have an HP laptop that has touch point, or a touch display, and I can do that on my HP. So, but yes, you can. And you also wanted to know how long the recording will be available. I'll leave it up there, for a long time. So don't worry about that. And by the way, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or you need help. I mean, I'm doing a lot of things with RPR. And, one thing, and I've shown this before on some other sessions, but I'm always here to help. I just want to show you one of the things I do with some of the neighborhood reports is I put those on my website, and I have a cool free tool that you can use. But under the market, this little report right here, I'm actually able to put this into a digital format, and so folks can actually look at it. Here's I'm gonna put this down here, but you can actually look at this in a digital format, and I can now also share this in social media, on LinkedIn, Facebook, different places. And this is why I think it's really cool when you add those custom pages, because right after this first page, what I think would be great to have is my resume and pictures of some of my clients with just a brief testimonial, which would be really, really good to do. Thank you, Dan, for that. I'm going to actually look that up, and I appreciate you giving me that. Okay. Thank you so much for the kind comments. And the tool I just used is called Flip Builder. However, there's a free tool that you can use called flipsnack.com, and it's free. And I've helped some folks take these RPR reports and use this in Flip Snack, and it does a really cool job. So you might check that out as well. And feel free to reach out to me if you have any other questions or need help. I'll be glad to help you in any way. So thank you so much. You've been a great group. I should have asked, I normally do, if you're a Cubs fan or a White Sox fan, but I like Chicago. I love your pizza, and always enjoy getting a good steak in Chicago when I'm there as well. So have a great day. Thank you. And I see Cubs and an exclamation point. And so have a great day. I hope you list and sell something today. And really feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or need some help in the future. I'll be glad to help you. Thanks a lot.